Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us here today, and welcome to this first panel discussion of the day, which focuses on the concept of the BCG economy emanating from Thailand. And to discuss this, it's an absolute privilege here today to be joined by a very diverse set of speakers. We have Dr. Lily Uwalakatra, Vice President of the Thai National Science and Technology Development Agency, Mr. Rasha Arabag, the Department of International Economic Affairs, Thailand, Mr. Sujit Acharya, serial entrepreneur and chair of the Energy Development Council in Nepal, and Mr. Raghavendra Mato, co-founder of Doko Recyclers in Kathmandu. The way this is going to work is first, we'll have some brief opening remarks from His Excellency Vosita Vorasaph, Ambassador of Thailand to Nepal, and then from Mr. Bhandari of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Nepal. And then we'll move on to the panel discussion itself. So without further ado, Your Excellency, you have the floor. Please just unmute. Thanks.
Sorry, I will start again. Namaste and Sawadee Krab. I would like to welcome you all to Thailand-Nepal Economic Forum, Webinar Series 2022, co-organized by the Royal Thai Embassy, Kathmandu, and Nepal Economic Forum. The webinar are aimed at sharing knowledge and lessons learned, exploring collaboration opportunities, as well as discussing new economic trends in Thailand, Nepal, and beyond. I would like to thank the co-organizer, Nepal Economic Forum, as well as all the distinguished co-chairs, panelists, and moderator for joining us and making this event a reality. Please allow me to share some background of the topic of this panel. Not long before the pandemic, the concept of bio-circular green or BCG economic model, guided by sufficient economy philosophy, has been introduced to drive Thailand towards the path of sustainable development. Later, it was adopted as our post-COVID-19 national strategy for sustainable recovery, with the objective of building back better and greener toward a more sustainable and inclusive future. The BCG model is a combination of concepts already familiar to most countries. It applies a whole of society approach and integrate bioeconomy, circular economy, and green economy with advanced technology and innovation to boost competitiveness, enhance resource efficiency, transform waste into wealth, regenerate biodiversity, and mitigate impact on the environment. Although the BCG model is our national agenda, we believe the concept can also be applied and developed in a much broader scope. As the ASEAN coordinator on sustainable development cooperation, and also APEC host and BIMSTEC chair in 2022, Thailand hopes to drive BCG cooperation in the region and beyond. To rebuild our economies in the post-pandemic world and advance a more balanced and sustainable growth that leaves no one behind. Certainly, there is room for potential collaboration on BCG between Thailand and Nepal. We can work more closely in the area where Nepal has interest and expertise, such as renewable energy, waste management, and logistics. Thailand is ready to share our ideas and experiences and would welcome further dialogue and cooperation. After this panel, we will also have two further interactive panels on startup ecosystem and innovation in Thailand and Nepal in 1 hour, and business and SDGs in 3 hours. Please stay tuned. I hope to see you all again this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Mr. Bhandari, and could you turn on your video, please, so we can spotlight you? Thank you.
Thank you. Am I audible and is my video on? I think I've turned on the camera and it should be fine.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you very much for giving me the floor, Your Excellency Ambassador, Mr. Vosita, Vorasaph, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to participate in this session of Thailand-Nepal Economic Forum. I thank the organizers, Royal Thai Embassy in Kathmandu and Nepal Economic Forum for hosting this event and inviting me to speak a few words in this panel on BCG economy, a guiding concept under Thailand's BIMSTEC chairmanship. At the outset, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate Your Excellency, the Ambassador, and through you, the Government of Nepal, Government of Thailand, on the assumption of BIMSTEC chairmanship. Nepal looks forward to engaging constructively under Thailand's leadership for realizing the BIMSTEC objectives and aspirations. Dear colleagues, given the change in chairmanship and the importance of biocircular green economy, there could have been no better time to deliberate on this theme with respect to BIMSTEC. This is more so as we hope for some respite and recovery after 2 consecutive years of pandemic-induced turbulence and turmoil. The 5th BIMSTEC summit, which was held on 30th March 2022, after being postponed for a couple of times due to the pandemic, made some important breakthroughs. The adoption of the charter, signing of some important instruments, and the rationalization of the sectors of cooperation in 7 clusters are crucial milestones in the life of the organization towards making its activities more predictable, efficient, and result-oriented. These new instruments are expected to bring fresh momentum to the BIMSTEC process. Of course, it is upon us, the member states, to ensure their honest and time-bound implementation. Having said this, however, BIMSTEC is far from effectively addressing the challenges facing our countries and our region. Our countries continue to face both traditional and emerging challenges. The problems such as poverty, unemployment, inequalities, and structural vulnerabilities continue to stand as daunting as ever. New vulnerabilities such as climate change and digital divide add further ooze to our worries. Our countries are off track to achieve the Global Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. The COVID-19 pandemic has only aggravated the challenges and severely strain our development efforts. In order to effectively address these problems, we must enhance cooperation in line with the rationalization of the sectors and subsectors. In this context, we are confident that Thailand's chairmanship will be able to rekindle hope and inject dynamism in the BIMSTEC process. Excuse me, just a second. Okay. We know it will not be possible to address these common challenges with the usual tools in such unusual times. What is needed then is to pivot away from the business as usual approach and devise innovative pathways. The model of BCG economy can help us in this regard. It is not least because the BCG economy is by nature restorative and regenerative. Such restoration and regeneration is very much critical, as if the current trends continue, the global consumption of materials such as biomass, fossil fuels, metals, and minerals is expected to double in the next 40 years. The UN Sustainable Development Report states that by 2050, the world will be consuming as if there were 3 planets. But we must correct this course. We must aim at transitioning to more inclusive, resilient, low-carbon economies with regeneration of natural resources and systems and proper response to climate and biodiversity changes. The BCG approaches and strategies can be more suitable for the countries like Thailand and Nepal, which are rich in biological and natural resources. It can accelerate their transition towards a regenerative growth model. The need is to focus on the key sectors such as food and agriculture, energy, tourism, and creative economy with an aim to migrate from low-value commodities to value-added products. For a truly circular green economy, we need to listen to the indigenous voices. The BCG model can be realized at the grassroots level, drawing on the traditional agricultural practices and knowledge of our local communities. The government of Nepal has laid a special emphasis on clean and green initiatives in sectors such as agriculture, energy, and ICTs. In order to reduce environmental pollution, the production, import, sales, distribution, and the use of plastics has been discouraged. The use of electric vehicles has been encouraged. Carbon emissions reduction programs are being implemented in several districts. The government is effortful to enhance the capacity of the local communities to minimize the adverse effects of climate change. In this connection, we appreciate the initiatives and the programs that different organizations in the country are implementing to promote clean and green economy. To conclude, road to resilience, prosperity, and sustainable development is not that easy. The call for promoting green economy has never been so strong, and the need to promote sustainable development never so compelling. We must realize this and act now and act better. I wish this webinar series all success. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Bhandari. And I think you've summed up a whole host of issues there, which is very interesting for us to deliberate on now. By way of introduction and context to this panel discussion, as we all know, human societies around the world we live in, the impact that human societies are having on the world we live in is serious and getting worse. And it was Johan Rockström who coined the term planetary to identify environmental systems that we as a species are in danger of damaging so much there is no route back. Now, a great proportion of this has to do with the way economies around the world work. And in that context, therefore, the way economies grow has never been more important. And these frameworks, BCG economy that we're here to talk about specifically today, but also GRID here in Nepal, are part of that endeavor. An endeavor to shape growth so that economies recover from economic shocks, yes, support societies, but by doing so in a sustainable way. And in the time available, we are going to try and touch on as many points as possible, including some questions from the audience, actually. So please do ask your questions. And a bit later on, we'll try and address some specific themes such as innovation and collaboration and investment opportunities. But in the first instance, we're going to go to each panelist in turn to give their brief thoughts on BCG. And maybe if I can start with Dr. Lily, I think you're going to help us understand the BCG concept itself and how it can play a role. So yeah, over to you.
Thank you, Mark. So it's my great honor to participate in this event. So as maybe shown in the introduction slide, my affiliation is NASDA, or National Science and Technology Development Agency. Currently, the role of NASDA is one of the main organizations driving BCG economy for Thailand. And among several roles, NASDA acts as secretariats of all BCG committees, including the one that's chaired by the Prime Minister of Thailand. So today it's my task to share with you a brief introduction of Bio-Circular Green Economy, or BCG model, Thailand's priority agenda for sustainable development. Then, if I have a chance to talk in the next round, I would like to mention international collaboration in the context of BCG. So as you may be aware that our world is currently facing challenges in both domestic and international fronts, from climate change to economic crisis, pandemic, and environmental degradation. And to turn this situation around, Thailand has set up the national agenda, so-called BCG. And just to briefly remind everyone, bioeconomy involves the production of renewable bioresources and their conversion into high-value products. The circular economy aims at renewing usage and perpetuating the usefulness of resources. And the green economy, which encompassing the bio and circular economy, keeps the economic growth, societal and environmental well-being in balance, leading to sustainable development. So these components mentioned are not new, of course, but Thailand combines all three aspects to make sure that our economy will rely on the national strengths, which are biodiversity and cultural diversity, while using science, technology, and innovation to raise national competitiveness, strengthen communities, and restore and protect environment. And importantly, the BCG economy model pays particular focus on 4 important sectors in Thailand, and that are food and agriculture, medical and wellness, energy, material and biochemicals, and lastly, tourism and creative economy. And there are 5-year BCG action plan which set a vision to create sustainable and quality growth with science, technology, and innovation. The action plan is based on the 4 strategy: promote sustainability of biological resources, strengthen communities and grassroots economy, enhance sustainable competitiveness of Thai BCG industry, and lastly, build resilience to global changes. And BCG model is expected to make significant impact in 4 aspects. Firstly, sustainability of resources and the environment by reducing natural resource consumption and greenhouse gas emission. Secondly, socio-economic prosperity by improving income inequality, health and quality of life, and energy security. Thirdly, sustainable economic growth by raising economic value of the BCG industry with high value goods and services and more income to the grassroots. And lastly, self-reliance by enhancing skills of our workforce, creating more startups and innovation-driven enterprises, and improving technological self-reliance. So I will stop here and we'll discuss more about international collaboration under BCG in the next round. So over to you, Mark.
Thank you very much. Mr. Racha, I think let's go to you next for some opening comments. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to thank the organizers for this seminar, especially our ambassador, His Excellency Vosita, and the Joint Secretary, Mr. Bhandari and Mark and Sakya, Mr. Sakya for organizing this seminar, so we can get in touch from Bangkok to Kathmandu. So let me tell the audience that I will give the overview on pro-BIMSTEC concept, which is the foundation how to drive our chairmanship of BIMSTEC, because Thailand has assumed BIMSTEC chairmanship after Sri Lanka, and it will be for 2 years. But generally, let me go first to our bilateral relations. Our relations with Nepal stand on development cooperation. So we share technical cooperation with Nepal, and we would like to support Nepal because we know that you have a national policy which is called Prosperous Nepal and Happy Nepali. So we also believe that our policy will address to the need of your country, of Nepal. So the BIMSTEC is another framework, regional framework, which will support the development of all member states. So during our chairmanship, we have a concept that I have mentioned. We call pro-BIMSTEC, PRO, pro. So I will elaborate. What does pro mean? First, pro mean prosperous. Prosperous mean every member state will get benefits from prosperity under BIMSTEC. We focus on this economic aspect. We would like to promote post-COVID economic recovery by restarting economic cycle, develop sustainable economic system, and support businesses, especially SME. This is this is prosperous. Second is R, that stands for resilient and robust. Resilient and robust focus on security aspect. So BIMSTEC must be prepared to deal with future challenges and crises. So we would like, our policy will support the policy of other member states in terms of economic restoration, in terms of food and public health security. The last one is open. Under pro, open means inclusiveness. We will include people into the heart of BIMSTEC cooperation. In order to achieve this objective, BIMSTEC, under our chairmanship, we promote sustainable and cultural people-to-people ties. And as we know that Nepal is a lead country in people-to-people contacts, which has subsectors, namely culture, tourism, and people-to-people contact. And in the case of Thailand, we also would like to promote the connections between people through cultural exchange and Buddhist relations, especially BIMSTEC Buddhist circuit and BIMSTEC temple circuits. I believe that our pro will support the development of Nepal because during the fifth summit, which has been held in Colombo, His Excellency the Prime Minister of Nepal put the emphasis on the post-COVID economic recovery of Nepal. He also mentioned that he would like to strengthen BIMSTEC through trade cooperation and connectivity, and also for sustainable development. It is what he mentioned in his remarks. I also would like to mention another issue concerning Thailand. Thailand is a lead country in connectivity. So we will promote connectivity in all aspects: land, air, and maritime. I think this connectivity that we will push forward will address the needs of Nepal, because Nepal have because of the geographical location of Nepal. So there are many projects under Thailand's chairmanship as a lead country on connectivity. Lastly, I would like to tell you that this is the concept that will be translated into many projects, and we will have a meeting in June or July. So all member states will have a meeting to discuss, but those projects will be based on this concept of pro. Thank you. That's all for. I would like to tell the seminar our position. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ratcha. Very interesting indeed. If I can now go to Sujit, and just I know you've been involved in energy for a long time, renewable energy especially. So yeah, if you could just sort of say what this BCG means to you from your perspective, that would be great. Thank you.
Namaskar and Sawadee Khap to all my brothers and sisters in Thailand. I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to speak here. Thank you so much. So yeah, BCG actually, which is Biocircular Green Economy, is kind of very personal to Nepal. This is a many countries, they want to get to climate change, and because of climate change, get to a sustainable future. But for us, in Nepal, our economic development actually needs to be based on BCG. And me and my council, the Energy Development Council, for the last many years, we've been saying, that if this country wants to, achieve the economic growth that we can, we have to be based on a BCG economy. Of course, we didn't have this term till our brothers and sisters in Thailand have, coined it. But basically what it means is, we need to move away from, fossil fuels, which today in Nepal, we have a potential financial crisis in terms of, depleting our foreign currency reserves, because we're spending about 45% of all our foreign currency on, buying imported petrol and diesel and imported petroleum cars. and other other stuff that uses this dirty energy that is not required in Nepal and not produced in Nepal. I also see, we have some friends from the government of Nepal here, and I would like to tell them that, BCG, Nepal has not achieved anything in BCG. I'm sorry, I'm quite a kind of a straight shooter. We have most of our fuel, and energy is coming from imported petrol and, imported gas. Most of our, people in the, I guess in the, outside of Kathmandu, they're using, unsustainable firewood for their cooking needs, and, I hope, that, and yeah, this entire concept of BCG in Nepal, it's, the roadblock is there because of red tapeism, We have about 700 plus parliamentarians there that are producing so many laws and policies, that is leading to more and more red tapeism coming. So this is becoming, going to become a very, very big, roadblock towards BCG. So what does actually BCG mean for Nepal is, Nepal has never achieved 10% economic growth ever in its history till today. No government in this country has ever been able to achieve, a 10% GDP growth. And in order to do that, we need to unleash BCG, which means, that Nepal has to be an electrified economy. And electrified in Nepal only means clean energy, because those are the sources that we have. We have mainly hydropower, which is about, as per our council, the hydropower potential of Nepal is 400,000 megawatts. We have a lot of biomass, in the southern belt of Nepal. We have a decent amount of solar, but because of a smaller land area, we cannot, go into the large grid-tied, solar, production. So yeah, in order to achieve a 10% annual economic growth, implementing BCG model, it means, running the economy, our fuel should be, electricity. In fact, in the next, I think, 30 or 40 years, the entire world is going to 100% run on electricity, all the other, the 33 of energy and gas and or oil and electricity is all going to become electricity later on. So Nepal has that potential, but we have been stuck, with this word called potential for the last many decades, So BCG, in the context of Nepal means an electrified economy, where everything that is running in Nepal, everything that's powered in Nepal is powered through our, domestically generated electricity. And, we have assembly plants that are making electric vehicles in Nepal, which is a very good area of cooperation between, the Detroit of Asia, which is Thailand, and Nepal. And, our southern areas are running under small ESCO type biomass, companies, which is another area where Thailand is very good at. And yeah, Nepal is also the not only a powerhouse for electricity, but is also it's a place for hydrogen. One of the largest reserves of hydrogen in the world. Because we have almost about I would say 20,000 rivers here. It's Nepal. So when we're talking about biocircular green economy, it means generating from our renewable energy sources, and using that for sustainable growth. And for us, in our case, BCG is actually a matter of national security and national sovereignty, because until and unless we implement the BCG model, which we haven't, and there's a lot of talk that we should implement, but it's not happening because we don't have a good bunch of politicians who understand, how to unleash this. We're going to continue importing fuel from India, and or wherever. We're going to continue importing cars from other countries, and we're going to continue polluting this beautiful country of ours. Right now, as Nepal, Kathmandu is the most polluted city in the world. It was ranked in a few studies. So yeah, it's time for Nepal to wake up, and I'm very happy that our brothers and sisters from Thailand have taken this BCG model and are going to highlight it via the BIMSTEC. So, we are very grateful, and we hope that, in all these BIMSTEC meetings, because it's under the chairmanship of Thailand, our people in Nepal are reminded, that BCG needs to be implemented, for us to get to 10% economic growth on an annual basis, which has never happened. Thank you very much, and Khop Kun Kap.
Thanks, Sujit. Very useful. And I think lastly, we'll go to Raghavendra just for some brief opening remarks, kind of reflections on BCG initially. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for arranging this webinar to all the stakeholders. Just a brief introduction. Toko Recyclers is a social enterprise working in waste management, implementing source segregation of waste, and also providing collection service and sorting the waste and providing it as a secondary raw materials to the industries. So we are kind of in between this whole concept of circular economy. So I understand that circular economy has been on the agenda for a lot of developed and developing countries. From my understanding, circular bioeconomy demands co-creation, as many businesses and ministries have to align for its full potential, and ultimately reducing carbon emissions and resource utilization within the economy. In order to reach, we have to focus on building a circular economy mindset first, because our geography, it still needs to familiarize with these concepts. And I see public and private partnership playing a major role, as a private sector will implement policies developed by institutions. And in general, I feel this is good for businesses, as consumers are slowly moving towards more environmentally friendly products and services. In general, as a private company working in waste management, we understand that sustainable waste management is a key aspect of BCG network framework overall. We have to transit from make waste economy to reuse, repair, refurbish, and recycle economy. Reverse logistic and waste take-back mechanism, also known as extended producers responsibility, is still yet to be practiced in countries like ours, which kind of creates a big gap in the supply chain in waste management. Currently, companies like us are kind of operating at optimal solution due to systematic constraints like cost that are keeping solutions from being viable, at least for profit businesses. By this, we mean the necessity for businesses to opt for recycled materials or increasing the demand for recovered materials is limited currently. Informal waste sector is a big part of circular economy. It's common in Thailand, because I've lived in Thailand for a few years, and in Nepal, where thousands are involved in this sector. But however, the circular economy does not explore the critical questions of labor conditions and the existence of those who are involved and add value to discards and waste. They cannot acquire social welfare, labor protection as other registered occupants. However, BCG framework I see has it does encompass this challenge from my understanding. So it's a good aspect. Another example of a scalable business model that is being practiced in Nepal is Biogas, which was first introduced as an experimental basis in Nepal. But currently, public and private partnerships have launched multiple projects all over Nepal, mostly in southern belts, that convert biomass waste into electricity and gas. So such models are actually a role model for, that can be expanded into other areas where we can actually play with the resources and supply it as a secondary raw materials to industries. So I think the circular economy is a requirement. We have to figure out how to make our resources cycle in a way that is broadly beneficial while mitigating our impacts as a whole and restoring the ecosystem we have kind of for long taken for granted. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Raghav. Yeah, some very interesting points brought out. I mean, I think we could talk for hours about this stuff, right? But I think in the time available, what I would like to do is kind of put a bit of an umbrella over the discussion now, and kind of and kind of really maybe situate it in partnership, how we can partner, how we can collaborate, how we can share ideas and knowledge. And within that, innovation. So you mentioned it, I think, Dr. Lee at the beginning, and also Sujit Raghav, you mentioned it in passing as well. This question of role of innovation, where is innovation needed? What emerging innovations are we seeing that can really help us on this journey? Perhaps in your sector or in other sectors, but perhaps kind of in an overall sense. Maybe Dr. Lily, I can go to you with that question on innovation.
Okay, sorry. I didn't hear very clearly. Did you ask me about innovation? Innovation, you mean?
Sorry, yeah. So,
oh, okay.
Yeah, so you're breaking up a little. You're breaking up a little bit, but the role of innovation in a BCG, in a transition towards a BCG, where are you seeing those emerging trends and opportunities?
Okay, well, I have to be honest with you that I actually prepared to talk about international collaboration because that's my field. But I mean, if you want to mention about innovation, it's actually play a very important role in BCG because we don't expect to have just to have increase of production or increase of income to the community, and that's it. But we think about, when we talk about BCG, that means that we have to change the mindset of how we actually work together in terms of, not just government or private sector or research community, but with the BCG, we call quadruple helix manner. So that means that government, community, academic, and government, private, research community, and also communities like local community has to work together, and in terms of bringing innovation into their everyday life. And what I want to mention is actually one of the topics that Sujit just mentioned on the carbon neutrality, for example. So for Thai government recently approved new tax breaks for electric vehicles to encourage a shift to electric vehicles and promote Thai EV industry. So along with this policy, considerable investment has to be made by the public research funding agency to bolster technological capability of our automotive industry to manufacture EVs, including electric motorcycles, passenger car, and light rail transit system, as well as related parts and equipment such as swappable battery and charging station. And prototypes of these EV have already been developed through a public-private collaboration and global partnership scheme involving the technology transfer and localization collaboration with foreign partners, and will soon be transferred to local industry for manufacturing. In addition to lowering carbon emission and pollution, this policy will facilitate Thailand to become the regional EV hub, and as envisioned by the government under BCG concept. So that's kind of example that we incorporate like innovation into society, and everyone has to work together in pushing this kind of technology to work in the real life. So that's maybe for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Lily. Sujit, maybe you'd like to come in on this question of innovation and collaboration in that space.
Yeah, thank you for that. That is something that I would be interested to talk about. Yeah, so I just want to first give a concept about what happened in the last decade in Nepal, and what should happen in this decade in terms of innovation. So the last, from 2010 to 2020, which is actually it's spilling over till now, is we've been all focused on building power lines, on talking about the concept of cross-border power selling, and also implemented it on a G2G level with India. We've also been trying to get power projects to generate, And that's been slowed because of various issues on the local level, and of course the biggest obstacle is always the government in Nepal, because they have so many. It takes 7 years to get a hydropower project to construction, and those 7 years are spent. 6 of those 7 years are spent on doing government paperwork, and then the last is ending the energy crisis, So unfortunately, because of because of lack of innovation, we are still in this vicious cycle. Whereas where we should innovate, our economy or our electricity sector should be, if Nepal were to allow cryptocurrency mining to happen, in power stations in Nepal. A 5 megawatt hydropower station in a friend's power plant in Washington of mine, he makes $50 million a year. And a 5 megawatt hydropower station in Nepal makes less than $2 million a year. And, it takes about 10 years for them to pay the loan. And, the government makes no revenue from that, So if this was implemented and we have more than 100 power stations, the government would make about, and take a 30% tax, the government would make about $2 billion in this current situation of tax revenue, from cryptocurrency mining. But it's banned in Nepal because it's considered worse than killing somebody. This is it's killing innovation. Secondly, is every power station in Nepal is a hydrogen plant. About a few years ago, I had dinner with a minister from Japan. And I was there to talk about hydropower, and he's like, we're very interested in getting hydrogen from you guys. And of course, we had a few wines, so I was like, Your Excellency, are you talking about hydropower or hydrogen? And he said hydrogen. And so if you understand, you put electrolyzers in our plants, and instead of you have to maximize the value of your sustainable electricity, which is one of the BCG concepts. So you basically have, you have an oxygen plant because water is H2O, and you'd have hydrogen via an electrolyzer, So you are basically, you can do cryptocurrency mining, you can do, produce hydrogen and oxygen, you can house data centers, which is digital, the whole world, now is going towards digital, and most of the power in the entire world is going to be consumed by digital, So, the safest place for data centers, countries like Thailand, countries like Singapore, they all have data centers. They have a great digital economy based on data centers. 70% of a data center's, cost is electricity, and data centers need to be kept in, very safe, cool places. Those are powerhouses of Nepal, so we need to be trying to get, our economy, to innovate, towards these things. The other thing, as someone just mentioned about electric vehicles, the largest, Nepal is situated in between the largest, global consumer market, Bangladesh, India, and China. And the distance between Nepal to China and the distance between Nepal to India, road distance, I'm saying, that's the shortest distance. In fact, that distance is even nearer from places from India to India and China to China. So, for us, to, bring in partners like Thailand that want to transfer technology transfer for electric vehicles, this needs to be the hub for electric vehicles, in South Asia plus China. We can buy companies from, buy brands from other countries like Italy, wherever, a nice motorcycle brand or a car brand, bring in technology from countries like Thailand and, produce electric vehicles here. But unfortunately, that's also not allowed in Nepal. It's illegal to buy, foreign company, so, and, the last thing that I want to mention about innovation is, we only talk about the creative side of innovation, I want to talk about the stifling side of innovation. The biggest problem in Nepal is red tapeism, and 50% of all the laws, regulations, and rules that has been made in this country, they need to be cut in order to unleash innovation, So yeah, we got to go, towards digital, digitizing, towards newer energy sources, instead of just building these boring power lines and saying, let's, sell electricity to India or to China or wherever, it's difficult to do that. It takes time, let the government do that, So this is what I mean about innovation and in terms of the collaboration possibilities with Thailand. We've just spoken about that. Is Thailand is really good in biomass. Thailand is really good in terms of power trading, and Thailand is really good in terms of this setting up this electric vehicle thing. So we can partner with them, and unleash this, to have a great innovative economy. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Sujit. And yeah, to your last point, I know that resonates with one of our viewers on Facebook Live, because Rajendra Sual said, as a jump start in the forthcoming budget, the tax on EVs or electric-based appliances, actually, vehicles should be reduced, including electric tariff, to kind of push this stuff. So it is absolutely about policy as well as creativity. I want to come back to international collaboration, maybe with Mr. Racha and Dr. Lily in a minute, but just lastly on the innovation, turning to Raghav, I know you do a lot of almost like grassroots innovation with at a local level. Can you maybe talk to this subject from your lens?
Mm-hmm. So we definitely understand there's value in waste, undeniably, but due to limited, let's say, technology and infrastructure in our country, proper recycling, handling of waste, especially complex waste such as, let's say, electronic waste, these is not possible at the moment in our country. And due to this, we are losing a lot of resources as it's being illegally channeled towards India or China. So this is one of a gap that we see in innovation, because we are not able to transfer, or we are not able to seek the required infrastructure from countries which already have developed these infrastructures. Also, when we talk about electronic vehicles, we talk a lot about solar panels, moving to green energy. But again, let's say in a decade or so, we'll have problem of lithium-ion batteries, because all these vehicles are based on battery system. And so far, it's considered as one of the most difficult materials to recycle. So we will again face similar issues what we are facing with solar panels right now. Maybe in a decade, we'll have lithium-ion batteries for which we do not have solutions, or because of the Basel Convention, we cannot transfer these waste to any other country. So it's like bringing everything inside and keeping it intact and not able to send it outside. So either we need to work on the convention, we need to find countries who will accept waste from us and then transfer those waste to those countries, or we need to import the knowledge to actually dismantle and somewhat sort and recycle waste within the country. Yeah.
Thanks, Raghav. Okay, so I want to just let's move on to collaboration and investment opportunities, collaboration, international collaboration. I think that's so important to unpack in these final 10, 12 minutes. I'm going to go to Dr. Lily first, and then Mr. Racha, perhaps for your comments on the same. Dr. Lily.
Thank you. So despite being the national agenda, the BCG model shares similar vision to the SDG policy in many countries and regions. For example, the EU Green Deal, Japan Green Growth Strategy, the US Carbon Neutrality Pledge, and so on. So interestingly, in ASEAN region, most country members also embrace sustainable concept in their national plan. And ASEAN is in fact heading in the same direction, which is to preserve our environment, initiate active measure to promote green growth, and using STI to convert our biodiversity into high value products, which is also safe for our environment. Therefore, the ASEAN BCG network has been set up to serve as one of the platforms to catalyze collaboration within ASEAN on sustainable development. And the network has already been endorsed by ASEAN Committee on Science, Technology, and Innovation. And it will be one of the platforms for exchange knowledge and experience on BCG SDG. The network will also enable the capacity building and technology sharing via workshop and showcases, including joint research projects and shared facility. Finally, I think I would like to propose the way forward for international partnership to support the Global Green Deal and sustainability. Firstly, all countries should share, exchange, and transfer knowledge and technology in pursuing sustainable development in areas such as sustainable production and consumption, and innovation-based businesses and technology, and carbon reduction or carbon capture and storage. And secondly, a fund should be established to provide financial and or technical aids which facilitates the transfer of technologies that support sustainable development, especially those that are necessary to enable SDG and carbon dioxide emission reduction target announced in the COP26. So this could certainly be achieved through regional networks such as cooperation under BIMSTEC or ASEAN BCG network that I mentioned earlier. And the other point that I want also to make is the one that was raised by Mr. Mato about the solar cell recycle, because we know that in Thailand, this kind of thing are already in, has been put into use. Maybe this is one of the area that we could collaborate in terms of transfer of technology to, to share this kind of technology with Nepal as well. Yeah, that's all for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Lee. Very interesting to hear about those ideas. And Mr. Raja, do you have any thoughts on that subject? I think we might have lost Mr. Raja. But I think what you said there, Lily, about this opportunities for sharing knowledge and technology, including by a fund through the kind of BCG thing, BCG concept. It very much resonates with me, and it's the kind of structural thing that we might need to do that, to encourage that. I wanted to maybe go on to talk about, and we've probably not got much time left, but talk about skills and technical capacity. Because I guess in all of your areas, you see aspirations for business growth, but there are maybe areas where technical capacity is lacking or skills are lacking. Job creation and job, that kind of technical capability needs to be built. I wonder where you see, potentially a need or opportunities for sharing technical capacity, maybe from Thailand to Nepal or vice versa. Maybe a couple of minutes from each one, and we'll go for Sujit first.
Yeah, I think definitely there is a big requirement for us to have cooperation on technical technology transfer and the skills transfer. I know that Thailand has done a lot of work in terms of building various dams, inside Thailand and in various countries like Laos, and other countries via, some of their cooperations with various other, joint venture partners. I'm also in touch with many of them, various consulting companies like Team and, Untitled Chapter and all these other companies. But more important than that, more on the skills. I think the other kind of skills that we need is skills to make assembly plants here in Nepal. Assembly plants in terms of for whatever sector we're talking about. If it's electric vehicles, if it's making pipes, for transporting water, for the water conveyance systems of hydropower projects. If it's for solar panel, installations or even cleaning, Nepal has a lot of really good workers in terms of blue collar workers, but we need a little bit more a better white collar workers here. So I think in terms of innovative skills that Nepal lacks, this is something that we can definitely get from Thailand. And, I always tell people in Nepal, we built Dubai, we built Malaysia, we built other countries. Why can't we build our own country? So, I think that's one of the things. And the sector where, most of these skills are required to be transferred is, from a government to a government level, because, our government is just completely, they're just lost in red tapeism, and populism. So we need to really get to, how do we get to 10% per year? Nobody talks about this. How do you use our knowledge, our skills, our resources to grow at 10% per year? This is the key point, that I want to make. And, we need a lot of great thinkers, to solve this puzzle. That's all I can say on this.
Thanks, Sujit. Raghav, you've talked about the kind of market gap for you and the need for market creation. And I wonder how skills transfer and capability transfer can help in that, and the capability gaps that you see to create that market.
So I think similar to what Sujit spoke about, government to government knowledge transfer skills, I feel the municipalities in our country, they have all of them. They have a engineering department, they have environmental department, but most of them, they do not have sufficient skills or knowledge to actually, deal with all this kind of technical stuff, like let's say establishing a materials recovery facility to collect all the waste, sort them and supply, add to the value chain. So these kind of technical knowledge is still not there for them to actually come and work with private companies. Also, when we talk about policy framework, so in terms of how do we design policies that will actually create a circular economy. So even that is, for that, you have to get an understanding of the entire ecosystem properly and design policies. So countries have already done this, India, Thailand, so we don't need to reinvent the wheel. So probably that in these matters, we have to follow what's already been done and successful. So I see a lot of exchange possibilities between municipalities, between universities, and delegations, private sector delegations visiting each other, to understand more.
No, very, very interesting. And we had a comment again in the Facebook Live feed saying that maybe an area of collaboration could be in the agricultural sector, because I know it's a massive sector in Thailand, but also in Nepal, and many similarities there in some ways. Mr. Racha, I think you're back with us. I was just asking about skills and skills and capability transfer.
Okay, thank you.
We only have a couple of minutes left, but if you have any comments on that subject. Yeah.
Thank you. So I would like to share information with you that during the fifth summit in Sri Lanka, member states have signed a MOU on technology facilities transfer center, which will be founded in Sri Lanka. So I think this center will play a role in terms of promoting technology transfer among BIMSTEC member countries. So this is information that it will help BIMSTEC in terms of multilateral relations. But in terms of bilateral relation, I'm sure and I know that Thailand is committed to support Nepal, because we have provided many scholarships through our TICA, which is the International Cooperation Agency, and because we enjoy close relation with Nepal, because we consider Nepal is the birthplace of Lord Buddha, and all Thai people knows well, and many Thai people make a pilgrimage to Nepal. So we have a very close relation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Racha. I think we're about time, but it's been a fascinating conversation to be involved in. If anyone would like to make any final points, please do say now. But otherwise, and I can't hope to sum all of that up. But I think there are some key takeaways on innovation transitions, on innovation, the different types of innovation that are required, thinking not just about that kind of creativity and creating new technologies, but also just thinking about the wider systemic issues there that are going to support innovation and technology transfer. There are some major issues, I think, in terms of the policy environment, but also lots of areas for collaboration, which you've brought out very well. Would anyone like to make any final points before I sum up? No, in that case, just thank you very much. Thank you for everyone joining us on Facebook Live. Do join us for the next panel, which starts, I believe, in an hour's time. But on that note, thank you to all our panelists, and see you next time. Thank you.
ขอบคุณครับ